Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'd like to show you how I made this really simple yet very useful little rack for my screwdriver and socket accessories just out of a little bit of scrap wood. So what I have here is a little set of sockets for a screwdriver, and I have a screwdriver here and these sockets will fit into this screwdriver. So what I want to do is make a little rack to hold them all together, nice and neat and organised. So to make the rack I have this old piece of pine which came off a headboard, and it measures around 4 centimeters by 4 centimeters squared. So because this piece of pine came from a headboard, it had a couple of holes in it, so I've already gone ahead and filled it with a dowel, this hole and this hole too. The diameter of the shaft of these sockets is just under 7 millimeters, and the diameter of the shaft of the screwdriver is just under 10 millimeters. I want to use a slightly larger diameter drill bit for both the sockets and the screwdriver. For the sockets I'm using a 7mm diameter drill bit, and for the screwdriver a 10mm diameter drill bit. And I've pre-drilled a couple of test holes just to make sure that the fit is nice. For the screwdriver, that fits nice and snug, and for the sockets, again, a nice snug fit. So I started off by measuring up. I decided to go with 30 centimeters for the length, and I could get that marked up with the speed square. I then transferred those lines around to the front of the rack. And then marked up 2 areas where I want to drill some clearance holes later on to add the rack to the wall. I used a combination square to help me get everything centralised. And now back to the top of the rack. So now I could start spacing out for all of the holes that I want to drill for all of the sockets. This will depend on how many sockets you have and the thickness of the shafts, but I tried to get them as equal as possible. Then with the speed square I could draw a line down from each point. And again with the combination square I could mark a cross ready for the drill press. Okay, so everything's now marked out nicely, and it's always a good idea to just double check everything before you start drilling. Make sure everything's positioned correctly. That's where the screwdriver will go, and all the sockets. And I've got my 2 clearance holes at the front here which are not interfering with the rest of the holes. Now onto the miter saw. I could cut off those excess parts. And now with a round over bit in the router, I decided to round over all the edges because the 4 sides were already rounded, so I thought I'd round the whole thing to make it nice and smooth. Now I used an awl to mark all of the little cross sections that I've made, and this will make it nice and easy for the drill bit to find the mark. So now onto the drill press. I'm starting off with the 10mm bit, making the hole for the screwdriver itself. Now for the 7mm bit, I'm using a depth gauge here and I'm drilling just under 2 centimeters for each hole. And finally, I'm using a 5mm drill bit to drill the 2 clearance holes at the front. Then I gave it all a nice sanding down. And I decided to paint it grey to match the theme inside the workshop, and I gave 2 coats of this. And then once the paint was dry, I decided to add a final coat of spray varnish. And that was the little rack all finished. And now I just needed to get the rack positioned on the wall, and again using the awl I can make a mark and then get a pilot hole drilled out, and you can see just above where I'm putting this rack there's another screwdriver rack. If you'd like to see the video on that one, I'll leave a link to that video in the description box. And I'm attaching it with some standard wood screws and some small washers. Once I got the first screw in, I could use the spirit level to then mark for the second hole and repeat the process. Okay, so that is about it then for this video. So as you can see, a nice little simple, neat and tidy little rack just to keep everything nice and organised in the workshop. And if you did find this video useful, please remember to like and also consider subscribing for more DIY related videos. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.